The moment you argue, you've already surrendered something more valuable than being right, your composure. In that instant, your pulse rises, your breath sharpens, your words become faster, and your focus shifts from strategy to emotion. What feels like strength is actually exposure. You're no longer directing the situation, you're reacting to it. And in the world of power, reaction is weakness in disguise. Machiavelli once wrote that men should be either feared or respected, but never argued with. Because to argue is to lower yourself to equality, to show that you care enough to defend what should stand on its own. The truly powerful don't waste energy proving themselves. They conserve it, redirect it, and wait. Every empire, every dominant negotiator, every unshakable leader you've ever admired, they share one invisible discipline. They don't answer instantly. They delay, they wait, not out of passivity but precision, because time filters emotion, and emotion clouds judgment. When you respond instantly to an insult, a disagreement, or provocation, you hand the other person what they want most, your emotional engagement. It feeds them. It signals that they've entered your mental space. The Machiavellian mind refuses that invitation. That's where the 48-hour rule enters. A law of restraint, a discipline of distance, a silent test of control. The 48-hour rule means this: when emotion spikes, when ego burns to respond, when someone disrespects, challenges, or provokes, you do nothing for 48 hours. You disappear into calm. You observe the situation as if it belongs to someone else. You let silence do the work that words never could. In those 48 hours, emotion decays, perspective sharpens, and strategy emerges. You no longer speak from injury. You act from insight. The world confuses silence with weakness, but it's the opposite. Silence is the shield of the strategy. It creates mystery, forces others to reveal themselves, and repositions you from participant to observer. In that stillness, power consolidates. Because the one who doesn't react controls the rhythm. So in this video, we'll uncover how the world's most composed and strategic individuals use the 48-hour rule to stay untouchable. We'll decode 7 Machiavellian rules that transform patience into power and silence into dominance. Like, comment, and share. And don't skip any part of this video. Comment on this affirmation: I move with strategy, not emotion. Number 1. The power of delay. Power begins with distance, and distance is created through delay. The first law of emotional dominance is this: never react in the moment you feel something strongest, because emotion is distortion. When your blood is hot, your perception bends. What seems urgent is usually trivial. What feels like an attack is often projection. What appears personal is usually structural. But at the moment, your mind can't separate the two. Waiting 48 hours isn't about ignoring problems. It's about repositioning yourself above them. Here's what happens psychologically when you delay. 1. The chemical storm fades. The human brain runs on cortisol and adrenaline during confrontation. These chemicals amplify reaction, not reflection. Within 48 hours, they reset. When they do, clarity returns. You start seeing patterns, motives, and leverage points that were invisible in anger. 2. The emotional mirror clears. Immediate response keeps you trapped in their frame. Delay breaks that frame. It shifts the spotlight from you back to them. In your silence, they start to question themselves. Did I go too far? Why didn't they respond? That uncertainty becomes your silent advantage. 3. Time reframes perception. By waiting, you convert reactive energy into strategic energy. Your silence becomes a statement: I'm not affected. That alone intimidates and disarms. People respect what they can't predict. Successful people understand this. The person who speaks first loses leverage. The person who speaks last defines reality. Machiavelli would say, he who masters patience masters outcomes. This is why the 48-hour rule is lethal in its subtlety. It turns restraint into strategy. When you delay, you gather three invisible forms of power. Information. You see more clearly what's actually happening, positioning. Others expose themselves while trying to interpret your silence. Perception. You appear unbothered, which creates psychological authority. Remember, reaction feeds chaos. Delay breeds control. Let's apply it to real-world dynamics. In business, the impulsive email ruins deals. The delayed reply rewrites terms. In relationships, the heated argument breaks trust. The silent pause resets dynamics. In negotiation, the one who fills silence loses ground. The one who waits wins concessions. The 48-hour rule makes you unreadable. And unreadable people are dangerous because no one can calculate them. Every second you wait is a silent demonstration of self-command. And in a world addicted to instant reaction, restraint looks like mastery. So the next time you feel provoked, remember, silence is not surrender. It's preparation. You're not avoiding battle. You're choosing the terrain. Delay turns emotion into data. Data turns into understanding. Understanding turns into influence. That is the power of delay. Number 2, control the frame, control the outcome. Arguing is a trap. It makes you explain. And the moment you explain, you play by someone else's rules. Power is never about words. It's about frames. The frame defines who's leading, who's following, and whose reality dominates the conversation. When you argue, you accept their frame, their emotional tempo, their language, their assumptions. Even if you win the argument, you lose the higher ground because you fought inside their reality. Successful people don't fight for truth. They control context. Think of the 48-hour rule as a frame reset mechanism. By waiting, you allow the emotional fog to clear. The moment you return, if you return at all, you set the terms. You decide what the conversation means and what it's about. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Whoever defines the battlefield wins the war before it begins. The 48-hour rule ensures that you never fight on borrowed ground. Here's the deeper psychology. 1. Silence shifts attention. When you don't react, the other person's energy has nowhere to land. Their momentum dissolves. They're forced to fill the void, often exposing their own insecurity or weakness. 2. Distance redefines status. The more time passes, the more your calm looks intentional. People start to perceive your quiet as confidence. They'll assume you're thinking 10 steps ahead, even if you're simply letting emotions settle. 3. Control returns to the observer. The observer always has more power than the participant. The 48-hour gap moves you from inside the conflict to above it. You start seeing motives, alliances, and patterns invisible to those still reacting. Let's pressure test this idea. Imagine two leaders face criticism. One responds instantly with defense, emotion, and justification. The other says nothing for 2 days. When the second finally speaks, every word lands with weight. The silence has built anticipation. The energy has inverted. The critic loses control of the narrative because the audience's attention shifted to the one who stayed composed. That's the power of controlling the frame. It's not about dominance through volume. It's dominance through direction. The one who sets the rhythm sets the rules. So, when provoked, your first thought should be, who owns the frame right now? If it's not you, stop talking, withdraw, observe, wait 48 hours. When you return as the architect, not the participant. Never argue, redefine, never react, reframe, never explain. Command the context, because the world doesn't follow the loud, it follows the composed. That's how successful people win without fighting. Number 3, emotional detachment as a weapon. Emotional detachment isn't coldness, it's control. It's the art of staying still while others drown in movement. Most people equate emotion with authenticity. They believe that to feel deeply is to live honestly. But in the realm of strategy, emotion is a signal, not a compass. The powerful use it for awareness, never direction. Emotional detachment means this: you observe your feelings without letting them dictate your behavior. You convert emotion into data. When someone provokes, criticizes, or challenges you, your first task isn't to defend, it's to decode. Ask, what's their motive? What do they gain by making me react? What happens if I stay silent? Detachment transforms emotional attacks into opportunities for analysis. It turns chaos into information, and information is the raw material of influence. Here's how it functions in practice. 1. You weaken the emotional supply chain. Most confrontations depend on reciprocity. One person attacks, the other reacts, and the energy escalates. When you detach, you cut the chain. Their attack collapses under its own weight. 2. You preserve energy for precision. Emotion burns fast. Strategy burns slow. The detached person operates on long timelines. You don't need to win an exchange. You just need to maintain clarity long enough to exploit timing. 3. You project impenetrability. In human dynamics, predictability equals vulnerability. Emotional detachment makes you unreadable. People can't manipulate what they can't measure. The ancient Stoics practiced this under a different name, apatheia, the discipline of emotional equanimity. It wasn't about feeling nothing. It was about being ruled by nothing. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. To govern emotionlessly was to govern effectively. A man who lets himself be governed by his feelings, he implied, is easily led by others. To the detached mind, silence isn't passive, it's surveillance. You're studying tone, timing, and motive. You're gathering leverage while others burn energy on expression. Detachment makes your mind a mirror. It reflects everything but absorbs nothing. And in that reflection, you start to see what others miss. The real structure of power. So, the next time someone tries to drag you into emotional terrain, remember, they want you inside their frame because that's where they feel strongest. Stay outside. Stay still. They'll think you're indifferent. You're not. You're observing. That's emotional detachment, and it's a weapon sharper than any argument. Number 4, the psychology of perceived calm. Calm is not just emotional discipline, it's psychological theater. Humans read emotion faster than language. Before you speak, your tone, micro-expressions, and breathing have already broadcast a signal. I am in control, or I am overwhelmed. Perceived calm manipulates that signal. It's a Machiavellian illusion of certainty, a performance that disarms opponents and stabilizes allies. Understand this: people don't follow the truth. They follow composure. The calm one becomes the authority, even if they have less information. Here's why. 1. Calm signals control. In nature, the stillest animal is often the predator. The agitated one is prey. Your stillness sends a biological message. I'm not threatened. That message alters power dynamics instantly. 2. Calm destabilizes aggressors. When someone confronts you expecting emotional escalation and you stay composed, you break the expected rhythm. Their brain misfires. They start questioning their own position. Why aren't they reacting? Did I overstep? Do they know something I don't? 3. Calm transfers authority. In tense settings, negotiations, conflicts, leadership moments, the group gravitates to whoever maintains composure. Calm is magnetic. It fills the silence others fear. Machiavelli would have seen calm not as virtue, but as leverage. The appearance of serenity creates the illusion of strength. It's not about being unaffected. It's about looking unshakable. That's why the 48-hour rule works so perfectly. Time breeds calm, and calm breeds power. The waiting period allows emotion to settle, so that your re-entry, your next move, word, or decision carries gravitational weight. In the digital age, this rule is even more vital. Every message, post, or response you release creates a psychological portrait of your control level. One impulsive comment can erode the perception of strength you've built over years. When composed delay can multiply it, calm is currency. It buys you credibility, trust, and influence. But to embody calm, you must train it. You can't fake it when your inner state is chaotic. So practice small moments of silence. In arguments, in meetings, in texts. Notice how people rush to fill the void. Notice how you gain control without lifting a finger. That's perceived calm, the invisible crown worn by those who rule without noise. Number 5. Strategic invisibility. Win without being seen. Power operates most effectively in shadows. Visibility invites resistance. Invisibility builds inevitability. Strategic invisibility is the practice of removing yourself from emotional theater, of refusing to be the spectacle others crave. In modern culture, people mistake exposure for influence. They think being seen equals being significant. But true power grows underground, quietly, slowly, unannounced. When you're unseen, you're unmeasurable. When you're unmeasurable, you're uncontrollable. Strategic invisibility doesn't mean disappearing from life. It means being selectively visible. You reveal movement only when it serves purpose, not validation. Here's how it connects to the 48-hour rule. Silence is your first form of invisibility. Waiting 48 hours before reacting removes you from emotional visibility. It breaks the cycle of constant exposure that modern life demands. While others show every reaction publicly, through words, tone, or posts, you become the black box, quiet, unreadable, untraceable. 3 laws define this discipline. 1. Disappear to disarm. When conflict rises, step back. Let others expose their intentions. The more they speak, the more data they reveal. Your silence makes their moves predictable, and predictability is exploitable. 2. Hide timing, not intention. The Machiavellian strategist never reveals when they'll act. The 48-hour gap turns your timing into a weapon. It transforms you from player to architect, someone who decides the tempo of the entire interaction. 3. Let absence amplify you. People fear silence because it forces them to confront themselves. Your absence makes them replay your last words, wonder about your thoughts, and project meaning onto your quiet. That's leverage without effort. Sun Tzu said, "Appear at points the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected." Strategic invisibility applies the same logic to human dynamics. By being unseen when emotions flare, you strike only when calm returns, precise, surgical, unanswerable. Invisibility guards your power from erosion. Every unnecessary argument, every impulsive reply, every verbal defense, it all bleeds authority. Silence seals those leaks. The goal isn't to be mysterious for attention. It's to be absent for control. Because when you stop being constantly visible, people start imagining your moves. And imagination is more powerful than presence. That's how you win without being seen. Number 6, timing over force. Power is not measured by intensity, it's measured by timing. The strongest strike delivered too early or too late is wasted. The weakest gesture, executed at the perfect moment, can shift the entire balance. Timing is the invisible hand behind every victory. The impatient act with emotion. The powerful act with rhythm. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is a woman. She favors those who are prepared. Preparation is not about readiness alone. It's about knowing when not to act. The 48-hour rule is timing embodied. It transforms hesitation into a weapon. Every delay is a recalibration, a recalculation of context, emotion, and leverage. Let's dissect its architecture. 1. Timing neutralizes pressure. When others expect you to react instantly, they're depending on momentum. They want your energy to collide with theirs. But when you delay, you absorb that energy and return it when you choose. This reversal is power, psychological jujitsu. 2. Timing clarifies patterns. In those 48 hours, watch what unfolds. People reveal themselves under the illusion that you're inactive. They make assumptions, send follow-ups, expose insecurities. The impatient always speak too soon. The patient learns too much. 3. Timing dictates narrative. The first voice may capture attention, but the last voice defines meaning. When you finally respond, calm, measured and precise, the storm has passed. Your words become the closing statement, not another entry in the chaos. Every great strategist, military, political or psychological, treats time as their ally. You cannot command others until you command the clock. Look at nature. Predators wait. They measure distance, silence and breath. They move only once. Humans forget this rhythm. They confuse urgency with importance, motion with progress. The 48-hour rule reinstates that primal discipline, the stillness before the strike. It reminds you that action gains value only when anchored in awareness. If you wait with purpose, the world bends toward your tempo. That's why successful people seem to act effortlessly, not because they do less, but because they move in perfect synchronization with timing. Force burns fast. Timing compounds. Remember this principle. If emotion demands immediacy, delay it. If silence feels unbearable, extend it. If the response feels urgent, postpone it. Patience is not absence of movement. It's control of rhythm. That is the quiet superiority of timing over force. Number 7. Master the 48-hour rule. At first, the 48-hour rule feels unnatural. Your instincts rebel against it. You'll want to defend yourself, correct misunderstandings, confront disrespect. But mastery begins when you recognize that instinct itself is the battlefield. The 48-hour rule is not a tactic. It's a psychological transformation from reactor to strategist. To master it, you must train 3 dimensions: mind, perception, and execution. 1. Master the mind. You cannot delay without discipline. Your ego will demand expression. Your pride will crave defense. That's the test. When provoked, your internal monologue must shift from "I need to respond" to "I need to observe." That single linguistic change rewires your brain for composure. Use those 48 hours to detach from identity and emotion. Ask yourself, if I respond now, what am I protecting, my ego or my position? If I stay silent, what power might emerge? Will this still matter in 2 days? By the end of that reflection, you'll often find that reaction was never required, only understanding. 2. Master perception. The external world reads silence as a signal. Every pause communicates. Every delay shapes the narrative. When you don't respond immediately, people start assigning meaning to your quiet. Some will interpret it as confidence. Others will feel uneasy. Both reactions serve you. Mastering the 48-hour rule means controlling what your silence communicates. It should never feel like absence. It should feel like presence withheld. Appear thoughtful, not indifferent. Appear composed, not detached. Silence is your message. Intention is your punctuation. When you finally act, make it deliberate. A calm sentence after chaos lands like a verdict. 3. Master execution. Use the 48 hours as a ritual of recalibration. Day 1. Observe. Let emotions rise and fall without reaction. Note your impulses. They reveal your vulnerabilities. Day 2. Analyze. Revisit the event with cold logic. Ask what was truly at stake and what outcome serves your long-term position. Then decide, do I need to respond at all? If yes, what tone strengthens perception and control? If not, what advantage does silence continue to create? By the end, your response, or lack of one, becomes a surgical strike, not emotional debris. This is mastery, turning instinct into intelligence, timing into strategy, and silence into speech. When practiced consistently, the 48-hour rule reshapes your identity. You become harder to provoke, easier to respect, impossible to predict. People start adjusting to your tempo. They argue less, listen more, and instinctively defer. Because they sense something most never develop: emotional sovereignty. You've stopped being a reactive matter in their world. You've become a gravitational force in yours. That is mastery. That is composure weaponized. In the end, the 48-hour rule is not about waiting. It's about ruling time. It's the art of letting moments mature before you act, of understanding that the pause between impulse and response is where power lives. The weak chase immediacy. The powerful shape is inevitable. Machiavelli would recognize it instantly. The ruler who governs himself governs others effortlessly. The one who reacts rules nothing. Every argument avoided, every reaction restrained, every silence maintained. These are quiet victories. They build the invisible fortress around your mind that no insult, betrayal, or provocation can penetrate. When you wait 48 hours, 3 transformations happen. Emotion turns into clarity, impulse turns into insight, reaction turns into command. That is the difference between people who seek control and those who are control. So carry this rule as armor in a world addicted to noise. You owe no one your instant reaction. You owe yourself your calm. You owe your destiny, your timing. Move like water, still on the surface, calculating beneath. Speak rarely, act deliberately, and let silence speak louder than any argument ever could. Because real power never shouts. It waits, it watches, it wins. Like, comment, and share this video to keep spreading wisdom. Comment this affirmation: power obeys the calm and the calculated.